How many more videos will we have to make on Viktor Orbán, who's been in power in Hungary since 2010? That's 4 terms, and he's now looking at a 5th term when Hungarians go to the polls in April next year. And for those that watch this channel, you know, Hungary, or more specifically Viktor Orbán, has been a massive thorn in the EU's side, blocking all kinds of foreign policy initiatives, like EU membership for Ukraine, or sanctions on Russia, and so on. Therefore, I think a lot of European capitals would be very happy, or at least secretly, if Viktor Orbán is gone. And that is not that unlikely. Orbán actually faces a strong challenger in Péter Magyar, who is currently leading the polls. So this might finally be the year that he's no longer able to hold on to his majority. But it does look like Orbán has a lifeline: Trump. Yes, the American president is once again meddling in European politics. Therefore, in this video, we're going to look into Orbán's difficult relationship with the EU, the upcoming Hungarian election, and how Trump might do in Argentina to turn the Hungarian election in favor for Orbán. Now, Hungary has long been the bad boy of the European Union. It's the one member that always seems to pick a fight, whether it's about EU funds, aid to Ukraine, or basically any policy Brussels tries to push through. And when it doesn't like something, it just pulls out the ultimate weapon: the veto. Since Viktor Orbán came into power in 2010, Hungary has used that veto 19 times, more than any other country in the EU. For example, sanctions on Russia have to be renewed every 6 months by unanimity, meaning a single member state can derail the entire process. And Hungary has often threatened to do just that, forcing concessions or watering down sanctions in the process. Even today, Budapest is blocking Ukraine's EU membership talks, which have been stuck for almost a year. And that's just not all. Hungary is still the biggest EU importer of Russian gas, and alongside Slovakia, it's one of the last countries still buying it. And Orbán himself, he's kind of a Putin fan. He was actually the first European leader to shake Putin's hand after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. And unsurprisingly, that did not go down well across Europe. So where does that leave Hungary today? Pretty isolated, and pretty unpopular, to be honest. The EU has frozen about 19 billion euros in funds, permanently withdrawn another 1 billion euros, and even fined Hungary 443 million euros for breaking EU asylum law. All in all, Hungary has become what many in Brussels call the black sheep of Europe: loud, stubborn, and increasingly on its own. And Orbán hasn't exactly handled it calmly. Instead, he's gone on the attack, accusing the EU of corruption and stealing Hungarians' money. But that message is kind of falling flat. After years of economic stagnation, corruption scandals, and frozen EU funds, even some loyal voters are turning away. Fidesz, Orbán's party, has been punished in the polls. TISA, led by Péter Magyar, has now become the main challenger. A former Orbán ally, Magyar took over the party in 2024 and propelled it to a strong second-place finish in the European Parliament election, winning 7 seats and joining the European People's Party. He's promising to revive the economy by unlocking EU funds, cutting corruption, and pursuing a more balanced foreign policy that keeps Hungary anchored in both the EU and NATO. Basically the opposite of Orbán, an EU ally that most European leaders are quietly hoping takes power. So what do Argentina and Trump have to do with all of this? Well, to boost his chances in the next election, Orbán turned to one of his favorite leaders.
Hello.
Donald Trump. Basically, he got on a plane to Washington to meet Trump at the White House, and his mission was to secure exemption from the US sanctions on Russian energy and lock in deals that could help his re-election pitch. And Orbán actually walked away with some big wins. First, Hungary got a 1-year exemption from US sanctions on Russian oil and gas, meaning it can keep importing energy through the Druzhba and Turkstream pipelines. Washington says it's for a year, but Budapest has understood it differently, saying it's indefinite. Then there's the energy shopping list. Hungary agreed to buy $600 million worth of US liquefied natural gas, $114 million in nuclear fuel rods, and more cooperation on new US nuclear tech. These first few points are quite popular among Hungarians, as many worry about an increase in heating prices during winter. The real headline was Orbán announcing what he called a financial shield, basically a potential currency swap line between the US and Hungary, giving Budapest guaranteed access to US dollars if things ever get rough. Yeah, it sounds a bit complicated, so let's break down Orbán's play here. Orbán's government is basically arguing that by freezing parts of Hungary's EU funds, Brussels is trying to weaken the economy and sway the upcoming elections away from Orbán. So, in response, Orbán says he went to Washington to secure protection, a financial shield from the US. This means that no matter how bad Hungary's finances get, the US would provide cheap dollars at low interest rates that Budapest could use to stabilize the forint, Hungary's currency. In other words, a kind of a bailout safety net, but with a big American flag on it. Now, will Hungary actually face a financial crisis? Probably not. Critics, like us at EU Made Simple, argue this is all about optics. It lets Orbán tell voters, if I'm not in charge, the US will pull its support and our economy will suffer. It's honestly straight out of Argentina's playbook with Milei, tying economic stability to one leader, Trump. Basically, in Argentina, weeks before the election, Trump suggested that financial support wouldn't exist if Milei didn't win. For voters, the choice was to elect Milei or face potential economic chaos, and the strategy worked. He won, by quite the landslide. So expect the same kind of rhetoric in the weeks leading up to Hungary's election. Orbán and Trump both warning that without US support, the economy will collapse. Of course, Orbán hasn't actually secured the swap line yet, but the very fact that it's being discussed is not great news for Brussels. Right now, the EU strategy seems to be, well, to wait it out. Sit tight until the elections in April next year and hope, yes, literally hope, that Orbán loses power. Because the only real alternative on the table is Article 7, the so-called nuclear option that could suspend Hungary's voting rights. But triggering it risks pushing Hungarians even further away to the EU, a population that ironically remains strongly pro-European. And politically, it could hand Orbán even more fuel for his favorite message. Brussels is out to get us. This is what I think. Viktor Orbán sits with the Patriots for Europe in the European Parliament. But frankly, he's the exact opposite of a patriot. I'd even go as far as saying that he's a traitor to Europe's values, aligning himself not with the EU, but with Russia and Donald Trump. And I genuinely don't understand how making backroom deals with Trump's America First, a country that clearly cares very little for Europe, or even Hungary, is somehow better than coming back into the EU sphere of cooperation. It's not like Trump cares at all about Hungarian sovereignty. Trump only cares about one country in the world, and that's the United States. And he will use every country in Europe, or any country on the planet for that matter, to reach his goals. So, this next election in Hungary feels like a grand finale. If Hungary sticks with Orbán, then yes, I think the EU will have to make some super hard choices. I'm thinking no more voting rights, no more cohesion funds, and even more isolation. And the opposition should make that super clear right now, during their campaign. And if Trump really pulls off this stunt, threatening to withdraw his so-called financial shield unless Orbán wins, then the EU should respond just as clearly. EU funds will not flow to a government that undermines European unity and values. Yes, that's tough politics, but honestly, I'm tired. I'm just tired of pro-European parties losing by playing the moral high card, while populists bend every rule in the book. So, Hungarian voters, you'll soon face a choice. Trump's America First Hungary under Orbán, or a Hungary that returns to Europe. The choice really is yours. And as for Trump, European leaders need to understand that he's not our ally. Sucking up to him doesn't earn us any favors. It only buys us time. We actually made a full video on this that you can watch right here. And if you want to see the kind of EU that we should be building, check out our breakdown on a tiered EU model. Thank you so much to our presidents. Jan Schauke, Christian Peter HGVD, Daniel Upedia Unite Europe, Stefan Europe, and Kiki Loxen. See you in the next video.